meets Tare, him, Chaitanya Charan, the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One who hears these pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great faith will surely very soon attain the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. When a person actually revives his consciousness with the thoughts of Krishna by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revives his spiritual life and becomes addicted to the service of the Lord. Only then can he act as an acharya. In other words, everyone should engage in preaching, following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this way, one will be very much appreciated by Lord Krishna and will quickly be recognized by him. Actually, a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must engage in preaching in order to increase the followers of the Lord. Thus, by preaching actual Vedic knowledge all over the world, one will benefit all mankind. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataru Brasha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today we are celebrating this year's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. First we'll discuss about what was the situation that was there at that time. So if you see that the political situation existed in that century when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. So he appeared in 1486. At that time in Orissa, Purushottam Dev was ruling the Orissa kingdom. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, after 11 years, Prataprudra Maharaj becomes the king of Orissa kingdom. And then Prataprudra Maharaj rules the Orissa, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappears, and after 6 years, then Prataprudra Maharaj leaves the kingdom. So this is how that was the situation in Orissa. But that time the Bengal was ruled by Hussain Shah. So what Hussain Shah did is like when he was ruling the kingdom, he appointed Sanatan Goswami as his main prime minister. And he was given the title Sakar Malik. And his younger brother was Rupa Goswami. He was given the title Dabir Khas. and he was given the portfolio of finance to look after. Then Sanatan Goswami's sister's husband Shrikanta, he was staying in Hajipur, that is near the Patna, and he was given by the responsibility of king to buy the horses for his army. And then younger brother of Rupa and Sanatan was Sri Vallabha, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to call him as Anupam. And then his son was Jiva Goswami. And it is said like there was a person called Maulana Sirajuddin. He's also called as a Chand Qazi. He is considered as a teacher of Hussain Shah. And when and he was given the charge of Navadip area when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nivai was doing Harinam in the Navadip. And he was the one person who gave order of stopping the Harinam Sankirtan. And near Siva's house, he was the one who broke the Mrudanga. So that was kind of a political situation in Bengal and Orissa. So the Orissa was ruled by a Hindu king and Bengal was ruled by the Muslim kings. So that's why there was very difficult to travel between the two states. There were so many checkposts and the travelers were harassed by both the armies. And actually, this Hussain Shah, he was assistant to Subuddhi Rai. And with the help of Subuddhi Rai, actually he becomes the king. So Hussain Shah becomes the king with the help of Subuddhi Rai. And when Hussain Shah was very young, that time Subuddhi Rai had punished him. And those marks were there on his body. And when later when he becomes king and his Begum sees that there are the marks, and because of the insistence of his wife, somehow or other Hussain Shah makes him leave his caste, it's called Jati Bhrashta. So his Jati was contaminated by the king, but later we find Subuddhi Rai when he approached the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because what happened is the Smartha Brahmin gave him the punishment that he has to drink the boiling ghee. That means in short they were saying that you should die and after your death, the next life you may get purified birth. But that was their way of doing things. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually gave him residence in Vrindavan. And he told him you stay in Vrindavan and take care of all the Gaudiya Vaishnava, those who visit in Vrindavan. And especially in Vrindavan, that the roti is prominent in the food. Whereas the people come from Bengal, they need rice. So he said, you procure the rice, and whenever the pilgrims come from Bengal, you feed them nice quality of rice, and that's how you should take care of the Vaishnavas. So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the highest service of serving the Vaishnavas visiting in Vrindavan Dham. And with that service, he could perfect his life and go back to Godhead. So this is how we can see the heart of the Supreme Lord. And he always is benevolent to his devotees. That was a kind of a political situation existed in Bengal at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And if you see the social situation that was existing in Navadip, as that time the state of Bengal was economically very prosperous state. In 13th century, one African traveler, he came and he had written the notes of his visit of Bengal, and he also left the list of the prices that existed in Bengal, and that could indicate how prosperous the Bengal was existing at that time. So by the blessings of Mother Lakshmi, the people of Bengal were having lot of opulences, and they were spending money on a various kinds of the ceremonies, and they used to get sense enjoyment by performing these kinds of ceremonies. So they just wanted some pretext to arrange some ceremonies. So it is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat that sometimes they would marry their cats and dogs. That means what is they just wanted some occasion so that they can come together and have some kind of a parties. But they were not inclined towards the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So if you see that time the society, what was considered as the most respectable and most looked after was, there existed debates. So the debate competitions and those who were expert in debates were given the highest respect. Whereas now we see in today's society is degraded, and especially the films or other kinds of sports personalities are given the respect. But those days the Vidya and discussion on the literatures, those people were given lots of respect. And that's how till recently, about 50, 60 years back also in India, there were various places where there would be a different lecture series on a different literatures. But nowadays, hardly anybody attends and goes for those kinds of discussions. And Navdeep was described in such a way that every house there was one Pandit. And then so many students were studying in Navdeep. And then unless you study in Navdeep, you were not considered as a great Pandit. As now we have for the engineering, we have the IITs and some other MITs, the prestigious institutions, or Oxfords and others, Harvards. So the people, those who study, are considered as the scholars and well respected in the society. But in those days, if you study in Navdeep, you were considered as a scholar and you were given lots of respect. And then Chaitanya Bhagavat in Adilila, the whole description is given that how the whole society was engaged in worshipping the demigods and reading literatures that were not connected to devotional service. So there were some reciters who would speak on Ramayana, who would speak on Mahabharata, but they would give their own interpretations of Ramayana and Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, we have a Bhagavad Gita, which culminates into surrender unto the Supreme Lord. In Ramayana also, you will find so much of devotional service is mentioned. And so many characters in the Ramayana exhibited the highest form of devotion to the Supreme Lord. But they were speaking on these things, but they were not giving proper tattva or proper rasa of the scriptures. So before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, there were some exalted Vaishnavas like Jaydev Goswami or Gunaraj Khan. They wrote some scriptures which was very elevated Gaudiya Vaishnava literature. But apart from very few scattered examples, most of the society was attracted towards the worshipping demigods, obtaining material opulences, and then enjoying the material opulences. And then if you see what was the ashram situations and varnashram system that existed. So because of the Kali Yuga influences, varnashram system was also corrupted. So Brahmanas were just wearing the threads so that they could show the society they are Brahmanas, and that's why they were entitled to get some donations. The Kshatriyas were unable to rule the subjects or protect the subjects. So they were considered as the kings, but that was in the name only. They didn't have any power or authority or any qualification to rule the areas. The Vaishyas, they were becoming the atheistic and Buddhist, and Shudras were going against the Brahman vrittis. So this is how they were connected. And the four varnas like brahmachari ashramas. So people remain brahmacharis because they couldn't get anybody, nobody gave them daughters to marriage, and that's why they remained as brahmacharis. And then grihasthas were not showing any respect to other sections of the society. They were not taking care of other ashramas, which was their primary duty. And they were just busy taking care of their own families. Vanaprastha actually did not exist. It just remained in the description in the scriptures. So as it is described, like after 50 years one should leave home and then prepare for the life of renunciation. That was just a description in the scriptures and a talk in the lectures. Nobody lived according to that. So many sannyasis were just dressed like a sannyasis, where intention was to just maintain their bodies. So this is how the ashrams and varnas were corrupted in that time. And those who were following the path of bhakti, there were many critics who criticized the path of bhakti. If you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur has mentioned that about the Gopal Chappal, Gopal Chakravarti or Ramchandra Khan, all these people opposed the pure path of devotional service. And they were against the Vaishnavas, they were against the chanting the holy name of the Lord. And this is how that existed. So when Srivas Pandit and his four brothers used to chant loudly in his house, they were very harassed by the non-devotees. And all the non-devotees used to laugh at Srivas Thakur and his four brothers when they would chant together. And most of the time they would chant all throughout the night loud Sankirtan of the holy name. So what all the Navadip Vasis, most of them who were not devotees of the Lord, they used to criticize this thing, that because of this loud chanting, the Muslim king will notice their activities, and if he becomes angry, he will destroy the whole village. So as they were sitting and discussing like this, they would threaten the Srivas that we will pick up your house and throw it in Ganges. So basically the Smartha people were very much against the loudly chanting of the holy name. And then they were saying that because of this family, they are doing these kinds of religious activities. There will be famine in the Bengal country. And they are actually doing this bhajan so that they can fill their own bodies. And Lord in Chaturma sleeps for 4 months. And if you chant so loudly, then his sleep will be disturbed. He will become angry. And then the famine will take place in our country. So this is how they were blaming the Vaishnavas. And some of the people were saying that yes, we have heard that in Ekadashi, whole night Kirtan is mentioned in the scriptures. Whereas they were saying that instead of chanting loudly this holy name, is better we spend time in studying the Jnana Yoga. And the kind of chanting and dancing in front of the deities was considered that time by the society as not natural. So some would criticize saying like this, that I have read all the Bhagavad, I have read all the scriptures, but I have not found the path of crying for Krishna or dancing for the Krishna. And then he says, will you not get punya if you chant softly? What is like the benefit of dancing and shouting the holy name of the Lord? Then they were criticizing, like, say, we have seen the sannyasis and tapasvis, they also die. Just like the ordinary people also die, the sannyasi and tapasvis also die. So, sense gratification is the intelligent choice, as all of us will die at the end of our life. So, this is how the mentality of the society remained at that time. And then one occasion, it so happened that 5-6 the Pakhandis, they went to Chankazi and complained about Nimai. And they said that this Nimai is destroying the Hindu Dharma by doing a kirtan which we never heard. Yes, we do kirtan, but that kirtan is done at a time of like when we are worshipping the Mangal Chandis or Vishaharis. That time puja, the loud chanting is allowed. But you never heard daily loud chanting like this. And then they mentioned that actually Nimai Pandit was very good. He was studying the Shastras, but when he went to Gaya, after coming from Gaya, he is completely a different person. He loudly chants, claps the murudangas, and they chant so loudly that we are becoming a kind of a deaf person. And we don't know what he eats, where he gets so much of energies that he does dancing like this, like he jumps, he falls on the ground, again he jumps, and for hours together he is doing kirtan, and he is doing whole night kirtan, and we are unable to sleep in the night. So even in those days also, like people couldn't sleep properly in the night. And they were explaining, like, now he calls himself as a Gaur Hari. He does kirtan along with the people who are from the lower caste. And actually what happens is, these people, their ego increases because they are participating in chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So what happens is like in our scriptures, the name of the Lord and this Mahamantra is mentioned. But what happens if all the people will hear this Mahamantra, then the potency of the mantra will get destroyed. And because you are the owner of a village and we are your servants, so you should kick out the Nimai from this Navdeep. So we can see how wicked mentality of a person becomes when he is devoid of a proper guidance, and when a person lives the life without Guru, Sadhu and Shastras. When the Lord himself has appeared, and this form of the Lord is considered as the most merciful incarnation, and he is freely distributing the holy name of the Lord, which is the Yuga Dharma, in their own village. And they are the fortunate ones who are witnessing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. But because of their own concocted ideas and following the rules and regulations of the scripture, not for devotional service, but for some other material benefit, then we can see that the people are complaining against the most merciful form of the Supreme Lord. And because of this behavior that existed with the people in the society, naturally the Vaishnavas were very sad in their heart. There was so much pain in their heart when Vaishnavas were seeing that these people are simply wasting their time. They have got this rare human form of life. And in this Kali Yuga, one of the very easiest way of attaining the Supreme Lord, where there are no rules and regulations one has to observe, and the Supreme Lord is present here, And at that time, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even came, Advaita Acharya, Srivas Pandit, they were coming together, they were trying to give the holy name to the people, but they did not find many people who were interested in their path. So there were professional speakers who would recite Srimad Bhagwatam, but they did not give true bhakti to the people. And one amongst them was Devanand Pandit, who was considered that time was the most famous person, a reciter of Srimad Bhagwatam. And he was very Gyani, he was tapasvi also, and very udasin kind of person. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the moment he heard one time that he is speaking on Bhagavatam, he became very angry. And then he said, what does he know about Bhagavatam? He is just after the liberation. And he is the person who ignored offense committed to the great Vaishnava like Srivas Thakur. And rather he actually supported the offense committed to him. So he is not a fit person who can speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So many people had that Sanskrit Pathshala open, and so many people would take learnings from them, and they would recite like Gita Govind. But actually Gita Govind is very exalted literature. It is truly relished by the Paramahamsas, who are very elevated in devotional service. And those who are like Nirvisheshvadis, or they are just the Pandit of Vyakaranas, if they recite Gita Govind, what benefit they will get it? Because they actually don't have any qualification to recite this literature. They just consider this is just a piece of poetry and recite. And then if you see the whole earth, like in the West, in the European countries also, that time between 14th centuries and 16th centuries is considered as the beginning of the modern age. And then Westerners were exploring the sea route to India. So 1498, the Vasco da Gama, he first came to India. He was a Portuguese sailor, and he reached the India's Calicut port. At that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 12 years of age, and he was performing his pastime in Navadip. So was these Western travelers, they were interested in the material wealth of India, and they wanted a safe route of travel, because the land route that was coming to India was coming from a difficult terrain, mountainous regions, and tribes would attack on the merchants. So they wanted a very safe route, and that's how they discovered this safe route. But they were interested in the material wealth of India. But they didn't know whatever sea route that they discovered, they will be benefited by the spiritual wealth of India. And one day, the same sea route was utilized by the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers. So what, if you go to Navadip, like there is a Namatta place where Nityanand Prabhu in Godrum Deep, he says, this is a Namatta and I am a merchant of holy name. I am a Vyapari of holy name. And anyone who just pays the price of a Shraddha, I will be giving him the holy name. So in that, like, so Namatta Vyaparis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to sea route and gave Krishna consciousness to the people all over the world. So if you see, like at that time, the 7th Henry was ruling the United Kingdom, and those days the Oxford University was opened, and they were having discussions on the literature, study of the literatures. And Navadip was becoming the center of literature of bhakti, the center for the Paravidya, the spiritual culture of India. And you see the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started this Yuga Dharma, and then he was accompanied by the 6 Goswamis. And once the 6 Goswamis wrote the literature, the Srimad Narottam Das Thakur Shamananda and then Rasikacharya, they took this literature and spread all throughout the India. And then later Srinivas Thakur, Baldev Vidyabhushan, they also preached the Krishna consciousness. So those days, all the literature was handwritten. And in the 17th century, the first printing press came in Bengal. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur took the advantage of printing press. And then he printed Sri Chaitanya Gita, Chaitanya Shikshamrut, Sajjan Toshnis, then Sri Krishna Samhita, Chaitanya Charitamrut. All these great literatures were printed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first person who sent the information, the literature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Western universities. So the young intellectual people will hear the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then they will be benefited. And then we find Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also sent the sannyasis to this sea route to go to the West to preach. And then eventually Srila Prabhupada, he went to the West by sea route and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So what we see, actually about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not many people know. Even in India, the people aren't so much aware of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those who are aware of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they don't know that he is the Supreme Lord Krishna himself has come. They consider him at the most as a great saint or a great personality. But actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself. And there is enough literature available for us through Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrut. And these are the people who actually participated or heard from those people who participated. So Chaitanya Bhagavat was written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. He was a disciple of Nityanand Prabhu. And he was a Bhatija's son of Srivas Thakur. And what he did is, the Murari Gupta, he kept a diary about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela in Navadip. And Sarup Damodar Goswami kept a diary of Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. So Vrindavan Das Thakur took the help of Murari Gupta's diary. And at the same time, he heard the pastimes from Nityanand Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Srivas Thakur and others. So all these pastimes, he has written it in Chaitanya Bhagavat. That's why Chaitanya Charitamrit's son, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, took the help of Sarup Damodar Goswami's diary. At the same time, he heard from Raghunath Das Goswami, who personally witnessed the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Nilachal. So he has written about the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, his Charitra, he has what is his teachings, the Tattva and Siddhanta. Everything is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then Chaitanya Mangala is written by Lochan Das Thakur, who was a disciple of Narahari Sarkar. And Narahari Sarkar was the participant in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And he also took the help of Murari Gupta's diary and wrote the Chaitanya Mangala. And then we find there is a literature like Chaitanya Chandrodaya, Gaur Ganesh Deepika is there. So in Kumaratta, Shivanand Sen was staying, and then every Ratha Yatra he would come along with so many Vaishnavas to Jagannath Puri, and his son was Puridas or Kavi Karnam Prabhu. And he also got the mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he had written this Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak and Gaur Ganesh Deepika, where he mentioned about the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's different associates and what was their background. Then we find like the Narottam Das Thakur, who was a disciple of Loknath Goswami, and Loknath Goswami also directly heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has written the Prarthana and Prem Bhakti Chandrika, in which the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings is available to us. And then Sanatan Goswami, who got personally teachings from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kashi. And then he wrote all the literature at the Bruhat Vaishnava Toshni, then Sri Krishna Lilas Tava, then Hari Bhakti Vilas, then all other so many literatures. Similarly, Rupa Goswami, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag and Dashashwambed Ghat. He learned from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he had written the literature like Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu, Ujjwal Nilmani, Lalita Madhav, Vikta Madhav, Padyavali. All this literature contains the bona fide teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then on these literatures, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Jiva Goswami, they also wrote various books on the teachings and the Siddhanta of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So all our Gaudiya Vaishnava literature is based upon direct instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He gave in the form of a sutras, and all these great Vaishnavas, they were decoded so that the people like us who can understand and get a very authorized, authentic information about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in that case, like we have a vast literature available to understand the teachings and the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you see like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, what are the teachings he gave? He lived with us for the Shikshastakam. And in that Shikshastakam 8 verses, he gave us how one can chant the holy name of the Lord. So the first verse, the Chaito Darpana Mahajana explains that Sri Krishna's Sankirtan, the holy name of Sri Krishna, is the topmost bhajan. And what benefit we will have, it will completely cleanse our heart of all the material desires that is there. And then, according to the scriptures, this material world is the most difficult place to stay with. Every step there is a danger, there is uncertainty. So it's considered as the people who are staying in the material world and engrossed in the sense gratification, they are actually given the analogy of Davanal. Davanal means if you see that there is a great forest fire and if you are very close to it, all your property gets burned right in front of your eyes. You are totally helpless. There is nothing you can do it. The only thing that you can do is run away from that. So if somebody wants to run away from this Bhavasagar, then simply chant the holy name of the Lord. Then all his repeated birth and death will be removed. And just by chanting, the Premananda will increase. And the first verse itself describes that how you will get away from the blazing fire of material existence to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. The lotus feet of Lord Krishna is described as the Sushital, that means very soothing to the heart and existence. Especially if somebody walks in the moonlight in summer season, he will be able to appreciate the cooling rays of the moonlight. So similarly, the attainment of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one can completely get rid of the blazing fire of material existence. Then comes the verse which calls us Namna Kari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. So which gives us clear indication that there is no difference between Nam and Nami. Krishna has invested all his potencies in the holy name. And in this holy name, there is no consideration of Kal, whatever may be the time of the day, you can chant the holy name of the Lord. You don't need to see whether it's a sacred place or not sacred place. Whatever may be the sthana, you can chant the holy name of the Lord. Whether you are qualified or not, patra, that's not considered. So if the Krishna's name, who is invested with such a potency, and once even if somebody chants sincerely with Krishna's holy name, it has a power to give him the love of God. But then why we, in spite of chanting the holy name for years together, we don't get the benefit, is unfortunately because our chanting is filled with aparadhas, and because of that we don't develop the taste in the holy name of the Lord. And one of the topmost offenses is the sadhu ninda. So one has to be very careful of avoiding all these kinds of offenses. So second verse gives us the what is the potency of the holy name and how much effect it will have. Then the third verse comes of Trunadapi Sunechena, which clearly gives us an indication that what should be the attitude of a person. That one has to be more humble than blade of grass, because what is mentioned in the second verse, only if you have these qualities, a humble like a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, that means absolutely no expectations from others, no expectation of honor or being honored by others. Only if somebody is in this mood, he is able to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord. So what is Trunadapi means? We are the spiritual entity and we are the servants. That means sevaka no sevak. That means servant of the servant. So we are the servant of Lord Hari, who are the servant of our own spiritual master, and then we are servant of Vaishnavas. And what is our identity? We are just a simple dust particle at their lotus feet. So this is what is indicated by the third verse of Shikshastakam. Then it's said about the Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim verse. So when you are doing holy name, absolutely all the material desires, if somebody do not expect dhana, do not expect jnana, do not expect the sundari, do not expect pratishta, or any other desire like liberations, or even the desire of no birth and death. Because if anyone has got these desires, he will not get Krishna Prem. So that has to be exclusive desire to attain the Supreme Lord. Then next verse comes is about Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram. So in this, the jiva has to consider, I am just a dust particle at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and eagerly awaiting the mercy of Lord Krishna. So definitely the mercy of Lord Krishna will come. So the thing is, always the devotees of the Lord are always eagerly waiting. When the one of the episode where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Mukunda that you will not attend me for crores of lifetimes. And still he had a hope that, okay, after I finish all these crores of lifetime, I will attain the Krishna's mercy. So the sadhaka has to have this kind of eagerly waiting attitude. Then it comes the sixth verse, Nayanam Gadada Shrudharaya. So this says that if person sincerely chants the holy name of the Lord, automatically all the 8 sattvic lakshanas will be manifested in his body. So it's not that holy name will not work. Definitely anybody who is sincerely following, he will exhibit these 8 sattvic lakshanas. Then it is called Yugaitam Nimeshena. That is, due to the separation of Lord Krishna, the whole world appears like a shunya. So what does that mean is that whatever things that are there in the material world, a person when he reaches that stage, he will use everything for the Krishna's service. There will be no trace of any material lust in his heart. And he will not use anything for his service. He will just use everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. And the last verse, the Aslishya Pada Ratam Pinashtumam, that verse comes, where it says that Krishna is the supreme independent. He may give mercy or he may not give mercy, but I will remain, but he will remain my unconditional worshipable Lord. So that's kind of a total dedication at the lotus feet, and is totally at the discretion of the Supreme Lord. So this Shikshastakam gives a guiding path for the sadhakas. And one has to understand, this is a very clear instruction given to us, that if you want to chant holy name of the Lord, just follow this path and then definitely you will be benefited. So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared to spread the holy name. And you will see whether he was in Navadip, whether he was traveling in South India, or whether he was in Vrindavan, and the last part of the life, whether he was in Nilachal. All the time, he simply spread the holy name of the Lord and relished the holy name of the Lord. So we'll see, like in Navadip, so there was like, if you see the lineage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so there was like Madhukar Mishra. He was actually from Yajpur of Orissa, but he settled in Srihatta in Bengal. And his son was Upendra Mishra. And Upendra Mishra's third son was Jagannath Mishra. And Jagannath Mishra, he came from Srihatta, which is today is in Bangladesh, to Navadip for the study. And then later he married to the daughter of Nilambar Chakravarti Thakur, Sri Sachi Devi. And here they had the desire to stay on the bank of Ganga, and that's how they settled in Sridham Mayapur. So the first 8 daughters of Sachimata died, and then Vishwarup was born. And then at the day of Chandragrahan, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And at that day, the eclipse is considered as inauspicious, and that's why everybody chants the holy name of the Lord. So some people chant the holy name of the Lord so that they can stay away from the evil effects of eclipse. And the devotees of the Lord, they understand that if somebody performs the spiritual activities, they will be supremely benefited. So all the devotees chanted the holy name, all the non-devotees also, because of the fear of inauspiciousness, they chanted the holy name. And now that time there were also Yavanas existing. And they started making joke or mockery of Hindus, and they also indirectly chanted the holy name of the Lord. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, when the Supreme Lord appears, it gives a divine atmosphere on the earth. And that's what happened is Shantipur, Advaitacharya and Haridas Thakur were staying. And within their heart, unexplained, the feelings of devotional ecstasies arose. And they started dancing and chanting the holy name of the Lord. All the devotees were also felt a lot of bliss automatically in their heart, just by appearance of the Supreme Lord. And all the demigods and demigoddesses, all of them, they came to Navadip. So the Saraswati, the Savitri, then Sachi, then Gauri, Rudrani, Arundhati, all these heavenly ladies, they also came along with their husbands. All the Siddhas, Gandharvas and Charans, that endless people started coming to the house of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi just that so that they can have a glimpse of Nimai. And then the Chandrasekhar Acharya, he was considered the Acharya Ratna. He came, Srivas Pandit came and they performed the Jata Samskara of Nimai Pandit. So Sita Thakurani and Malini, all of them, they came to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house. And right from the beginning, what we see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only when he was a infant child and he would start crying, and he would not stop until all the village ladies came and started the holy name around. And then only he was pacified. So very soon all the Navadvipasis understood this trick. And as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would start crying, they would come and perform the Harinam. And then there was kind of a Ruchi Pariksha was performed to see the inclination of the child and towards what way his future life will be. So all the different kinds of like gold, silver items were kept, all the Vaishyas, the grains and other items were kept, the Kshatriyas, also tools, weapons were kept, and Srimad Bhagwatam was kept. And as Nimai was asked to select whichever he likes, immediately he took the scripture of Srimad Bhagwatam and embraced to his heart, indicating that there's a supreme path of devotion is mentioned in Chaitanya, in Srimad Bhagwatam, and that will give everyone the ultimate perfections. And then we see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu led the life of ideal Grihastha. She always respected the Vaishnavas. And then there is like Vaishnava etiquettes. If you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the dealings amongst the Vaishnavas are mentioned. And in the dealings amongst the Vaishnavas, the etiquette is mentioned. And why these elaborate etiquettes are always there? So that we take whatever activities we perform very seriously. And that is why, like, if the Lord is to be worshipped, the elaborate procedures are given in the scriptures. Because He is the Supreme Lord, He has to be worshipped with that kind of care and attention. And similarly, the devotees of the Lord are also very important, and they also have to be respected. And then, like if any Athithi comes to a door, or any our relatives or guest comes to the door, there was a very elaborate procedure mentioned that how you should receive him and how we should see to that he is comfortable. And then later on the discussion would start. So as we observe these kinds of maryadas, these kinds of Vaishnava etiquettes, the loving relationship exists amongst the community. And then we see Nimai would always serve the Vaishnavas at the ghats of Ganga. Then in his own home, he would do worship of Lord Vishnu. He would do Tulsi Puja. Then he would accept the Krishna Prasadam. Then Sachimata, he was instructed by Nimai that please don't take any grains on the day of Ekadashi. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later when he married, along with his wife Lakshmi Devi and Vishnu Priya, they would serve the Atithis. So it's mentioned that always Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would invite many sannyasis, many Vaishnavas to his home. And then Sachimata and Lakshmi Priya would prepare so many items as one is serving the Supreme Lord with same mood and attitude. Both of them would cook for the guest. And this is how we always served, as that is one of the main duty of the Vaishnavas is to serve the renounced order of the life that he performed. At the same time, he was very strict about his conversations with the ladies. There was a certain time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed very mischievous role of a student. But even in that role also, this particular etiquette he followed, that Parastri Sambhashan, he was very satark, that means he was very alert, and he never crossed the boundaries of that. And then when that Digvijay Pandit came, that time very nicely, without hurting his ego, he was reformed. And in that time, when he was explaining to Digvijay Pandit that you have learned all these scriptures, but actually the goal of all the knowledge is to fix one's mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. And the best advice that I can give it is the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only substantial truth in all the words. So Vishnu Bhakta Satya Ananta Samsare. Ananta Samsara means so many planets will be there, but only truth that exists is the Vishnu Bhakti. And after that we find like he takes the Diksha from Ishwar Puri, and then he starts performing the Sankirtan in the Srivas Angan. So in the beginning, like all his life we see is a Nama Pracharak, and then he lived the ideal life of a Grihasthas. And then about the preaching of the holy name, so he made Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur in Navadip that you should go to every house and beg to every individual that Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Kara Krishna Shiksha. That means please chant the name of the Lord, please worship Lord Krishna, and please follow the Krishna's instructions. And daily Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sit and hear the reports from Nityanand Prabhu, Haridas Thakur about how people are taking the message of Krishna consciousness. And we see how the Jagai Madai, they were Mahapapis, were turned into Mahabhagavatas. So this is how, like in Navadip Leela, he performed the Harinam Sankirtan constantly and gave it to the people of this world. At the same time, we see in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, like his compassion and krupa that is available. So when he went to Varanasi, the Mayavadi sannyasis were there. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as such would not like to associate, as he has given a clear instruction that Mayavadi Krishna Pradi, and please avoid the association of the Mayavadis. But somehow or other, out of compassion, he gave them also his krupa. At the same time, we see the son of son of Sarvam Bhattacharya, Amoga, who was criticizing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he also eventually became a recipient of his mercy. At the same time, a Brahmana who cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that his material life will be destroyed, he also could get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited the supreme compassion, the Rupa Goswami in Prayag, as soon as he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spontaneously composed a verse mentioning that what mercy that you are giving it to the living entities is you never gave it in any of your previous incarnations. So Namo Mahavadanyaya. At the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has performed certain Danda Leelas, that means he has given punishments as well. As we have seen the Chankazi, when he was opposing the holy name of the Lord, he arranged the first non-violent agitation against him. And in that, the Chankazi was corrected, and in fact, he also gave permission to chant the holy name of the Lord. Then Devanand Pandit, he was also given the proper punishment that unless and until you get the Shiva's mercy, you beg forgiveness, you will not get the mercy of the Lord. As the Sachimata because she committed just a mental offense to the Advaitacharya. Even though she was so exalted from her womb, the Supreme Lord appeared. But she also had to rectify certain things. Then Mukunda Datta, he was the person, when he would sit with Vaishnavas, he would agree to them. Then he would go and associate with others who were not advocating the personal service to the Lord. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it very clear that exclusive devotion to the Supreme Lord is essential. It's not that you sit in every meetings and then accept and agree to all of them. You need to clearly differentiate. At the same time, we saw the life of Shota Haridas Thakur also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a very clear-cut instructions for the renounced order of life. So this is also part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. And then we can see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy was available to Grihasthas like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Ramananda Rai. Apparently, they led the life of opulence also, life of an authority also, but they exhibited the highest symptoms of devotional service. Then the renunciates like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami were also recipients of his mercy. At the same time, there were so many great Vaishnavas, especially we have seen that lots of pastimes were performed at the house of Srivas Thakur. And many lessons are learned to the Leela that was performed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there. So one time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was discussing with Srivas Thakur, he was mentioning that even if Lakshmi has to bake, your household will not be afflicted by the poverty. And then he said, like, O Srivas Thakur, have you forgotten that what I personally have said in Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana parupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vaham. So he said that I have declared it clearly that I will carry what they lack, I will preserve what they already have. And then what he has mentioned is Bhiksha Dei Mui Matha Vahaya. That means I will personally carry on my head the needs of any person who is thinking of me without deviation. That means once a person surrenders unto him, it's not that Lord will arrange things for him. What he is telling here to Srivas Thakur, that I will personally take the things, whatever he needs, on my head and deliver it to his doorsteps. Such is the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And not only he says, like, Sevekara Das se mohar bada priya. In the sense, the servant of my servant is also very dear to me, and then there is no doubt that he will easily attain. Now you see so many different pastimes that are there in South India, whether you go to North India, you will find the Krishna's promise, he has maintained it. So many places for serving his devotee, Lord has personally come and served it. At the same time, those who are related to the Supreme Lord are also supremely benefited. Another occasion, like which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained it to Srivas, that actually you have understood the greatness of Nityanand Prabhu, because he is my confidential associate. Because Nityanand Prabhu's behavior was quite bewildering to some. But Srivas Thakur very nicely took care of Nityanand Prabhu. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned that I am very much pleased with you. And then I will give you a benediction. So that again he said, like, even if the goddess of fortune bakes arm from doors to door, the poverty will not afflict your house. And everyone in your house, it's mentioned, Vidal, Kukur, Adi Tumar, Badil, Savaramate Bhakti Haibhakstir. So Vidal means cats, and Kukur means dogs. So everyone in your house, including dogs and cats, will have unflinching devotion to me. And that is why we find that so many Vaishnavacharyas have mentioned that I will become insignificant living entity in the house of a Vaishnavas. And then it's mentioned like Sivasara Vastra Siye Darji Yavana Prabhu Tare Nije Rupa Karaila Darshan. Now so many yogis and so many people, they perform tapasya for many years and unable to see even the toenail of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here we have seen the person who was a meat eater, Yavana, but because he was stitching clothes for Siva's Pandit, he was able to see the merciful form of the Supreme Lord. And so many people who were critics, they couldn't see the Supreme Lord. So we can see even the animals like the dogs, that is the Shivanand Sen's dog also attained the supreme perfection. At the same time, Kulina Gram residents, the peoples, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared very clearly that even the dogs in the Kulina Gram will get my mercy. And we have seen even the thieves and dacoits in one pastime where dacoits came and they wanted to rob Nityanand Prabhu. Even those people also get converted and were the recipient of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. So this is how we can see, this is the most merciful incarnation is there. And by Srila Prabhupada's grace, we have been given an opportunity to participate in this moment. And then what do you see? What is the heart of Srila Prabhupada? That he wanted to give this Krishna consciousness to the people all over the world. And that's why in the purport of today's verse, Prabhupada mentioned that the preaching is the most important activity. And the Lord is very much pleased that when you give Krishna consciousness to others. And that's the way we will become recipient of Krishna's mercy. This is the thing which the most pleases Lord Krishna. And in Krishna himself, when he comes in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right from his birth till he disappears from this planet, always gave Krishna's holy name to others. And we can see through his various pastimes, he gives us a clue, no matter however degraded we may be. But if you follow this principle of Trunadapi Sunichina, in that state chant the holy name of the Lord and just remain the association of the devotees, whichever form it may be, we will definitely receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So we'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaved Bhakta Vrinda ki.